took my family. Do you understand that? You took someone I love and you put her in danger. I'm sorry about what happened to you. But we're not going, man. We're not going to talk. You're going to tell me where she is, or I am going to hurt you. And I'm not going to stop hurting you until you tell me what I need to know. Tell me you understand. Tell me you understand. God. Where is she?
Welcome, Formerly Faithful. We are back. We have finally made it to season 3, the season 3 finale. Finally here, Revelations Part 2. So before going into my little review, because I know this was probably a polarizing episode, I figured let's hear from the man himself. Harold Perrineau is going to break down everything that happened with Boyd in season 3 in the finale and what he thinks is going to happen in season 4. So without further ado, let's get right to it. My interview with Harold Perrineau, talking about the season 3 finale and where we're going to go for season 4.
Hey, Ismail. Sorry, man.
Oh, you were good. How are you doing?
I'm really, really good. And you?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you making time. I thought I'd get you a little bit early because I know once the finale hits, everybody's going to be wanting to talk to you about what went down.
That's perfect. And I'm just gonna let you know, I'm gonna definitely have to bounce out of here. I got to meet somebody at 10:45, and so like I'm gonna at 10:30. I'm gonna
Oh,
skedaddle.
more than enough time. More than enough time.
Oh, perfect. But yes, I'm down. I can't. I'm glad that we're getting to do this toward the end of the finale, toward closer to the finale. That's fun.
Yeah, man. They got it to me last week. And I guess the first thing that came to my mind, I'm like, is Boyd actually broken now? Because beginning of the season, I'm thinking broken meant going crazy, but maybe
Right.
broken means, having to bend your moral code a little bit. Where's your stance on with Boyd now heading into season 4?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that Boyd is certainly not broken. Dented? Meh, we'll go with that. That's scratched? Maybe. But I'm going to say he's not broken. Like, one of the things I still think about Boyd is like, even though the choices are questionable, even though some of the choices are questionable, he really is just trying to do the best for the most people that he can. Do you know what I mean? He's
Hmm.
trying to really understand the situation in the best way that he can. He's without giving up his soul. You know what I mean? He has a really great protector in Sarah. But I still just think I don't think he's broken just yet. But man, oh man, is it getting close? Do you know what I mean?
Right. And I thought you
Parkinson's
played.
kicking in.
Yeah, I thought you played it brilliantly. Just the fact that, he was looking so conflicted when he was torturing Elgin. It almost reminded me kind of like spanking your kid, but not really wanting to. That's kind of the look you have on your face. But obviously, the stakes are higher now with with the weaponry and all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
Here's
Exactly.
something that I thought about though. I'm like, Boyd used to be in the military. Is this his first experience torturing somebody, or maybe not? Because he seemed to know which instruments to use. I kind of was thinking about that.
I was talking to somebody about this earlier. They were asking me about guilt, and I think it's a thing that many people who are in the military probably have to suffer with because you have to, think of the greater good. And sometimes thinking of the greater good, you have to do things that are, other people would question. Do you know what I mean? And my feeling from talking to many people who've been in the military, me not having been in myself, there are many times that you're doing lots of things that you have a question about, but it winds up being about the greater good. But there are times when you individually hurt someone or a group or a thing that you have to do in order to achieve a bigger directive. Um, it's even hard for me to talk about. I don't even know if I, Harold, could do it, but I do know that it is definitely a thing that comes up, especially like right now we're celebrating Veterans Day. That's one of the things I think about all the time. War is terrible. The things that you have to do in war are terrible. And so I imagine Boyd has done that and worse.
Got you. Now you mentioned Sarah. So I thought really what Sarah did was kind of a way to shield, like you mentioned, save what's left of Boyd's humanity. I'll carry the weight so he doesn't have to. But how do you
Right.
think that's going to affect Colony House? Because I'm thinking when the people come back, they're going to be looking at everybody that allowed this to go down. You know, Donna, Kenny, everybody that wasn't in the room, but was making sure nobody went in the room. Do you think this is the end of Colony House, kind of as we know it, because it's such I don't know if you want to call it a betrayal of leadership, but they were going out thinking it's one thing and they're going to come back and realize there was another. You know, do you think that trust will still be there in Boyd's leadership?
That's that's a good question. I hadn't even thought about that one. I hadn't thought about. Look, I think that they are. This whole season has led up to everyone questioning Boyd's leadership. Donna says it to him, and one other thing, she's like, "Yeah, the thing that you think is going to happen is not going to happen because they don't believe in you like that anymore." Do you know what I mean? And so this whole season has been about them trying to break him, and one of the ways to break him is to make everybody lose respect for his decision making. And so I hadn't thought about really how that's going to play out in season 4, but I know looking at it from a distance, it looks really bad. You know, there are invaders all surrounding the gate. Acosta's there, Randall's around, Kenny is on the edge. Do you know what I mean? And there are, yeah, it's definitely it's going to be harder moving forward, um, especially because he doesn't have any actual answers yet.
True.
He doesn't actually have a pathway. Like Tabitha offered some sort of pathway, but you see how it worked out for Dale. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So he doesn't actually have a pathway. So I reckon, which is why the writing I just applaud over and over and over. The setup is so good. He's backed into the virtual corner, and it's going to be interesting to watch that all play out.
All right. And you mentioned, people at the gates. The first one that comes to my mind is Acosta. I'm looking at her as kind of going to be the maybe main human antagonist of season 4, because she's been
Uh-huh.
questioning everything that you've done. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? She's the one I think could rile up Colony House. I want to talk about that scene that you two had, because a lot of people love that kind of dynamic that you have.
Yeah.
I think Boyd has made 2 big mistakes with her. Number one, not bringing her closer. He kind of shunned her at first. And then when
Hmm.
he comes back, he relents a little bit and gives her the gun without the bullets. I kind of think he should have stayed firm and not bent anyway with that, because I think now she's going to be a little bit more bold to see how far
Right.
she can push it at this point. I wonder if you're getting that same inkling from Boyd.
Well, I do. I try to tell everybody that I can. Part of that, I mean, all the words were written in that script. But when Acosta walks up and gets in the boy's face, that's Samantha Brown. She did that. So we were rehearsing the scene, and she stepped to me, and I was like, "Oh, yo, we fighting? Are we
Right.
fighting? Like, I don't know. You awful close to me, yo." so I thought it was such a great choice, such a great choice, that it really does leave you with that. Either I get to punch this lady in the face, or let me find some other way out of it. And so I think that's exactly the choice Boyd has. You know what I mean? He has the ability to be harsh. He really can. He could slap her around like, he did that other dude in the first season,
Mhm.
or he could like try to find another way. And I think him finding another way and giving that warning, I think that's the last warning he's giving her. I don't
Gotcha.
like, as much as I think that like there are all these other people at the gates and stuff like that. The one thing I'm really, really clear about with Boyd is like he'll give you a pass, but you don't want to cross it. That's where you don't want to be. Like, and so you could come to the gates, but you may not like what you find when you get there. And
That's a good point.
so
Now, you,
that's what I believe about him. Like he's trying to be as thoughtful as he can, but the other side is always present, always there. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, here's something funny you might not have seen. Some of my comments when they were talking about that scene, they were wondering if there's a little bit of sexual tension between Boyd and Acosta, which I thought was hilarious. But I think part of that is probably just people seeing, I always say, people love women love a men in uniforms. Probably the opposite too with a woman, and that's what people are reading into it because I didn't see that at all. But that's what my readers were saying about that scene.
No, I could see where you would come up with that. Like she looks like a younger version of Abby. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it could look like a younger version of like his wife. Like, and he talked about in the very first season how tough Abby was, and Acosta seems like really tough, and so I could see how you would get there. She's a little young, so we ain't trying to.
Exactly. We already got that situation where Randall and Julie people were talking about. It's like, yeah, that's not what you're thinking it is.
Right. And one of the things I think, and I still waver about this back and forth. In the very beginning of the show, there was a lot of mention of all the sort of sexual exploits that were happening up at Colony House. And sometimes I wondered, does it come back? Do people get really like, look, this is the end of my life, so you come here, let's get it. Does that happen? But so far everything that happens is so. You really have zero time to be thinking about your libido, like zero time.
Good point.
You know what I mean? Like when Acosta steps up to him, there's no time to be thinking like, hey, are you hot? It's like, oh, am I going to have to fight this chick? Am I going to is that what we're doing? Because I'm busy.
Now here's a dark horse threat you might not have thought about. Elgin is not dead, but he has been butchered. And I'm like, his mind was already cracking. I'm like, where is it going to be now? And can you even keep him in around other people? So he might be the one that flips out the most, not Acosta next season. Because I'm like, he's going to have to be isolated somewhere. And if he's isolated somewhere, they can start whispering in his mind even more. And he might be right back at it, in season 4. So he might be a dark horse to look out for.
He might be. I mean, he might be the reason the box comes back. I mean, I really don't know. Yeah. You might be like, you know what? There's no way that we're gonna be able to stop this big man from. So we might have to choke him out and then drag him into the box. I don't know, but I hope not. He's what a sweet character, and I feel so bad watching that happen to him because he really does think he's doing the right thing. But yeah. That's how you do a bad guy origin story.
All you gotta do is give him an eye patch and you're
exactly. And then you're right there, yeah.
Now let's talk about your daughter-in-law now and also Ellis. Where is their mindset you think is going to be with season 4? Because I know that Hager's character, she's going to Fatima feel so guilty about what happened, bringing another night creature back. Is she going to be the same? And I feel like you shielded Ellis a little bit because he wanted to go at Elgin, but you took the weight for you. Yeah. Where do you think both of them are going to be at in season 4 mentally?
Yeah. I think internally they're both going to be like really shattered. I think no matter what she thinks of birthing the thing, there'll be something about the birthing of it, I imagine, that makes her feel an odd attachment. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so and the Tilly of it all, and this is my guess. Okay. Don't anybody take this as me saying anything other than as the fan Harold. This looks like the split in the road. This looks like we already had one split with Colony House in the town, but this looks really different. And I got a feeling that there will be a new camp set up somewhere else. Otherwise, we'll be at war. Do you know what I mean? Right. I do think Boyd will need to protect his son and his daughter-in-law, but they'll be feeling a certain way about it. And, Acosta is there, Randall is there. Do you know what I mean? But the Randall, Julie, Mario thing, that's so percolating. So I don't have no idea what's happening there. You know, they clearly are connected to some tragedy. So I don't really know it's there. But this looks to me like that road in the story when all of our heroes decide this, when the X-Men, I mean, not the X-Men, when the Avengers break up. Do you know what I mean? And then you have Tony Stark's side, you have Captain America's side. That's what it feels like it's coming our way. But that's me, the fan, guessing. I don't really know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So here's my thing now, as far as how to deal with the night creatures now, because we have more information about where they exactly come from, why they're technically immortal at this point. But I think Kenny kind of had the best idea, because I'm like, they don't move fast. Molotov cocktails, throw some fire at them. Everything normally kills fire in horror shows, but the only thing I'm worried about now is I thought they didn't run before, but there is that. I think it was either episode 9 or in the finale.
Wait, have they run now?
No.
Oh,
So we're going to be episode 9. So yeah, all this will be shown after the finale. Yeah, but we're at episode 9 this coming weekend.
Yeah, right. I was just trying to think. Do I remember seeing them run? Yeah. He might not be right. Yeah, like it might be a burn it down, but nothing seems to. Yeah, they just come back, right? Inside somebody's belly, or like I don't know where John is going with this. I am perplexed. I think, maybe Kenny has the right idea. I don't know. All the things are really converging. All the stuff with the kids and the tree and the melody and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Now, I know, the cast, you guys all talk about, theories about what's possibly happened. Did anybody get it right with the finale? Was everybody wrong? Or did anybody?
Nobody's gotten a single thing right yet. Not one of us. And I'm telling you that Cortion and Ricky every day come in like, guys, I got it. Okay? Everybody sit down, listen to this. And we're all like, okay, guys. What do you got today?
Wow. Okay.
And nobody's gotten anything right yet.
That makes me feel better because, there's so many theories.
Yeah.
But I do think on the creature side, whoever that is in yellow, I think that's probably going to be the main one because he seems to be a night creature, but he can walk around in the daylight. So if I had to guess, that's probably the main one. And I don't know if anybody's talked about this. The fact that he's wearing yellow, there's this old story, famous horror story called The King in Yellow. And it's about a play that drives people insane if they read it from the 1800s. And H.P. Lovecraft, he adopted that theme to his own stories later on in the 1900s. And then True Detective, that show, they use the same type of Yellow King motif in their show in the first season. So like when I say yellow, I'm thinking that has to be some type of recurring thing because it symbolizes madness, forbidden knowledge. And he's always been saying, you're looking into stuff too much, Jim. That was the thing he said before he killed him. So I think he's at least kind of the upper echelon type of entity, if I had to guess. He seems like high up.
I think I would imagine that too, but I didn't know anything about the lore of the King in Yellow. That's actually very cool. Now I'm going to go back and look at some of that stuff and see if I can come up with any ideas that really might work. But yeah, that is very cool. What I actually just kept thinking was really cool about it is that if you go back and look at like the paintings from Victor's mom, the man in yellow is there,
right?
Like when she goes to town and like in some of the other ones, and he might even be there in the credits. I'll have to go back and look at the credits.
Okay.
All those pictures, but I know he's there in a couple of other things, which I think is so cool that like you've never even noticed it, and then he just shows up for a second. But I think he might. He seems to have a lot of knowledge and of everything going on, and so I'm really wondering what his part is going to be about. And when I watched it, the one thing I was asking myself is, if Julie hadn't come back, would that have been the ending?
That's a good point.
It's an interesting thing, or is that the way it always goes? Like, you know what I mean? Like my brain is baked on that part. Like, if she doesn't come back, he doesn't have to protect her. Then you see this dude, you're like, I'm getting out of here. I'm not staying. But when Julie's there, you got to protect her. But Is that always how the story goes? Because if Julie doesn't come back to the thing, Boyd doesn't get out of the
Out of the well, yeah.
well.
Hmm.
So I'm really curious about that story bit as well.
And I'm wondering how much Ethan is right, because he said before that you can visit different parts of the story, but you can't change anything.
Change anything.
That might be true, might not be true. Because I'm like, all
Right.
she had to say is, he's about to kill you, let's run. And that's if he's going to
Right.
listen,
Right, right.
we'll see if
There
he
again, I'm referencing. I think it's a Marvel thing where you just keep going back and like, let me try it this way. Let me try. Let me try it like that. And there's one way that works, but you just have to keep going back and trying it all the ways. So
I did talk to Hannah Jeremy, and she said if it is truly time travel that you can change, she was one to try and bring people back. She mentioned, of course, Cian Chen. She also even
mm.
mentioned Trudy from season 1. So I'm going to put you on the spot. If you could come back and change one character death, only one, who would get the nod? If you can bring them back on the show.
I would be remiss if I didn't say I'd bring back my wife. If I had another choice, I'd have jumped on her old girl. I was like, no, 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 shoot. Instead of, reacting with the gunshot. So as much as I love Father Khatri and as
Mhm.
much as I love Tan Tien, I think I would have to go with Abby.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man, so I think we've covered just about everything. Definitely
Got
looking
it.
forward to season 4. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I can't
Um,
wait.
I'm not sure what you're going to do about these night creatures. I saw that look that you had on your face when Smiley came back. Like, what am I supposed to do? I thought we were done.
Too
I don't know
nice.
what you can do to get rid of them, but
I got no more worms. I got nothing. I got I got nothing. So
oh, you know what we forgot to talk about? I don't know if you remember 2 years ago when we first talked. Remember we
uh,
talked about Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, and I told you that Crawford was going to knock him out. We didn't get a chance to talk since then, but
we did it,
I
man.
was
Was
right on that
that?
one.
Well, you were so right on that. Was that crazy or what? Like
Yeah,
the technique that this man has is just it is next
absolutely.
level.
It's like I will never doubt him again. I know the Canelo thing seems like too far of a reach with the weight, but I'm like, with his skill set, you just never know.
Hello, you
Oh,
totally
there you
froze.
go.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, yeah. You said the Canelo thing with the weight and all that stuff. What?
Yeah, I think it might be too far of a step, but I'm like, you can never just underestimate his skill set, talking about Crawford.
Right.
So it's like,
Right. Right.
I'll never bet against him. I'm like, if he thinks he can
Yes.
beat
Ever.
Canelo,
Ever.
I
Yeah.
want to see it.
Now, let me ask you, do you pay attention to because I kind of don't, but I'm wondering if you do, since you like boxing as much as I do, the Tyson Jake Paul fight?
Yeah, but on one hand, I'm happy they're going to be getting paid, but I'm very concerned about Mike being in this fight because I think
Uh-huh.
we're just so fixated in remembering how he used to look in his prime. I'm like, Mike is nearly 60. Your
Right.
reaction time is a lot different. Jake is
Right.
bigger, he's younger. And I'm like, people forget. Remember when Holyfield tried to come back? It might have been 2 years ago, and he got obliterated in less than 3.
Obliterated.
He looked great and everything, body was in
Yeah.
shape, but I'm like, boxing is a young man's sport. So I'm like, if
It
they're
really,
for
really
real,
is.
I'm concerned. If they're just, we're just going to spar around,
Right.
it'll be fine. But it looks to be a real fight. So I'm really concerned about, Mike
Right.
getting knocked out. Nobody wants to see Mike get knocked out at nearly 60.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody actually wants to see that bit of it, and I keep saying like, and I know like I understand the spectacle of it. Like I don't know if you remember back in the day, uh, what's the name used to do this thing, the Bum of the Month Club, but because he was trying to pay back his taxes,
Oh,
you
Joe
wouldn't have
Louis.
seen it. Yeah, you wouldn't have seen it, but like he had the
Mhm.
bum of him, and I understand the spectacle of it. But and at the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. You just got to do what you got to do. So, but I as a fan of Mike's and of his legacy, like I just don't want to see you knocked out by this dude. And if this dude really wants to test his skill, go fight. You're what is he, light heavyweight, heavyweight?
Yeah. There's plenty
Yeah.
of prime heavyweights you can fight. Top 10. You ain't even got to go for a champ. Just a top 10
You
fight.
ain't even got to go for champ. Just go fight one of those. Let's see what your skill level is. But
Mhm.
like this, fighting guys who have other skills, it's like I'm gonna get in a boxing ring with an NFL player. I'm gonna like you know
Mhm.
what I mean. You just it's like when Floyd fought Conor McGregor. Like one dude is an undefeated champion, the other dude has never been in a boxing ring before, and everybody's like, he's got a chance. No, he Has not.
Absolutely not.
This is
Absolutely not.
crazy. So, like, I get the spectacle of people like that kind of stuff. It's not the reason that I love the sport, but I get that, I am not everyone. So, we'll
Yeah,
see.
people, it's going to do numbers. So we're probably going to get
Yeah.
another one, not with Tyson, but with somebody else. As long as
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
watching
So
him,
I hope Tyson makes all the money. I don't want to see him get knocked out. Hopefully, like if it gets dangerous, they'll stop it. Or if he knocks out Jake Paul, I don't care about that. He's got
exactly.
time. Jake Paul's got time to recover. He's young. You recover like that. So
Mhm.
do that. So we'll see though.
Well,
Yeah.
Harold, I appreciate you. I want to make sure I get you out a little bit before 1:30.
Oh,
Thank
perfect.
you as
Yes.
always.
Oh,
This is
great.
going to air right after the finale, so I'll make sure I send
Yeah,
it out
man.
to you so you can take
Great.
a
And
look at it.
anytime you need me, man, you have been so supportive.
I
I
appreciate you.
cannot thank you enough. I'm not kidding. Like, you
Thank you.
really have been supportive and pushing the show and getting us a bigger audience and stay. So thank you, man.
Oh,
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
pleasure, man. You
I
do
really
great
appreciate
work.
it.
I'll always support you. Anything that you got going on, just let me know.
Thank you, brother. All right. I'll
All
talk
right,
to you
man.
soon.
Appreciate it. Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Later.
All right, big thank you to Harold Perrineau for making time to discuss the season 3 finale. It was a wonderful conversation. This was my longest interview that I've had thus far in the season. Before I begin with my review, just to let you know, I've covered every single episode this season. If you look in the description, you can see interviews I've done with other cast members and also reviews of every single episode this season. I'm also considering doing some, I guess, off-season discussions on From, being that season 4 is not going to be coming until 2026. That's a long wait, and it's very easy to forget everything that went down in the season before. So I might have that covered for you and try and get some more cast interviews and go into some more theories and lore about the From community as we head into season 4. But let's get right into this finale. The big thing is, are we going to get answers? We did finally get some answers. Were the answers satisfying? So for me, I'm kind of ambivalent. I wasn't blown away about the numbers being musical notes and the whole breakdown that happened there, but I wasn't dissatisfied either. I was kind of just feeling like a big relief, like, okay, we finally got this out of the way. We can move forward with the story because it did feel like for parts of season 3, we were kind of treading water until we got to this point. So now that I feel like we finally discovered that Tabitha is Miranda, that Jade is Christopher, that they've been here before. With this knowledge, we can really move ahead and push the story at a really fast pace for season 4. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be a fast pace because now that Jim has been killed, and he's been killed in the daylight by what I'm going to assume the man in yellow was a supreme night creature, and he has the ability to be a daywalker. That means no one is safe during the day. So with that going on, it makes it more urgent for them to come up with a solution, and they can kind of revisit something they should have done in season 3. The whole idea that Boyd talked about after Tien Chen's death is that we need to capture a night creature to figure out more about what's going on. They kind of abandoned that throughout the season. That was kind of my biggest disappointment, besides the Jasper puppet not being real. That was the other one because I really thought they were going to focus on the night creatures and figure out a way to combat them and not always be playing defense. But they kind of abandoned that. And I feel now they have to go back to that because the night creatures can respawn. So, there's a bigger urge to figure out a way to completely do away with them. And now you have someone that's stalking you in the daytime, possibly the man in yellow. So I'm hoping the storylines are going to move. I think they have to move a lot faster. Also, the big fallout that we're going to see is who's going to be the human villain. I think now we're going to have different factions, as Harold Perrineau alluded to. It feels like there's, and also Cortion Moore talked about this. If you look at my other video, speaking from the other cast members where they think season 4 is going to go, I can't see any way that we just resume business as usual, having Colony House in the town. What happened with Boyd is such a big departure and a portrayal from his leadership that he's had with the townspeople, and seeing what happened to Elgin, they're not going to trust him. Well, at least not everybody's going to trust him. And then Acosta, remember you heard her say in the finale that, what if I tell the townspeople what you've done? I feel she's going to be back on that. So you're going to have different groups. There may be 2 split groups, or there may even be 3. And the third possible group may be Elgin, because him being butchered like that, his innocence is completely gone now. And what happens to a person when their faith is shattered, when their innocence is shattered? To me, that makes him more susceptible to being coerced by the entities. We had the kimono woman, number one, but who else is out there that can manipulate him? I think he's going to be more susceptible to that because he's not going to trust anybody in the town anymore. And they can easily tell Elgin that, oh, you could have escaped. We could have let you all go, but you ended up telling, Sarah where Fatima was at, and that spoiled everything. And he's going to blame Sarah and everyone else for what happened. And as Harold mentioned, Elgin is a big guy, so if he turns completely evil, he can be very formidable. I think this is his villain origin story. It kind of has to be, unless they kill him. I can't see any way that he can mingle with regular people ever again. And then also remember Randall. Before Randall tried to kill himself, remember he tore his bandage off. And I think that's a symbol of him becoming a bit more unhinged. So you have two people that have been physically scarred by the events of the town. You have Elgin, and then you also have Randall, who I just mentioned. And their one interaction this season, Randall was a little bit more sympathetic to Elgin, and he admitted that we should have listened to you. Maybe we wouldn't have ended up in this situation. So possibly they link up and have a renegade faction out there, either just those two or maybe more, because Randall is slowly going insane. And we don't know what the effects are going to be with Mariel. She really hasn't had any outward manifestation based on what happened with her, Randall, and Julie. So maybe she has a power that's laying dormant, or maybe she's going to also be attacked like Randall is being attacked. So she's another one that could end up flipping out and going off with Randall and Elgin. And also Fatima's situation. Once they know that she's giving birth to a night creature, she was the one that killed Tilly. How is she going to be able to stay in Colony House? And like Donna mentioned in the, I think it was episode 8 or maybe episode 9, that Fatima has always been the symbol of hope and goodness, even in this terrible world that they're in. So with that shattered, I think that people are going to fall to their baser instincts. So even though Harold was mentioning in the interview that he thinks the factions going their separate ways would be a way to avoid all-out warfare, I think the separate factions, it's inevitable that they have to go to war because the resources are going to be compromised at that point. As of right now, I think all the food is based on that former encampment that they found with the totem poles and everything. So whoever sets up camp there has control of the food. And I think the other factions are not going to like that. So what happens when you're competing for scarce resources? You go to war. So I see all-out warfare happening in season 4, just among the townspeople. And then who knows how the entities, the man in yellow, how they're going to manipulate everything that's going on. That leads me to Julie. Julie, I mentioned to me, has one of the stronger powers, being that she can time travel. And if you looked at that last scene, obviously Julie's hair was different. She had the cut on her face. So who knows what type of power this time travel version of Julie has, because obviously she had an encounter with a night creature and she survived it. How many people can say that? I think just her and Boyd. So this version from the future or from the past, Julie, that was trying to save this version of Jim, who knows what secrets and powers that she can share with Jim and the other townspeople if she comes across them. Because now we have the whole thing, we know with time travel literature, if you meet yourself, that causes a paradox. It can cause wherever you're at to collapse or become unstable. So I'm waiting to see if we're going to have that future version of Julie meet the current version of Julie that we know, how that conversation is going to go. How can that possibly affect the From community? I'm very interested in seeing that. And also the whole idea of, can the story be changed? Because Ethan did say that as a story walker, you can visit, but you can't change anything. But who's to say Ethan knows everything, right? So we know Julie's going to continue to try and save her father. She's going to feel immense guilt, and possibly also Tabitha. So on these time travel journeys, who says she's the only one? Maybe she figures out a way to bring Tabitha with her. And I also think, with this season 4 potential, we definitely need at least one episode that's a full flashback, either to Miranda's time or possibly before then. I think we as fans are owed that to a degree. I think that would be a great way to expand the lore of the From community, particularly seeing how a whole different cast handled the situation back in 20 years ago, 30 years ago, however far back this From community goes. And I'm also hoping the fact that we're having to wait till 2026 for season 4. I like to think that means we're going to be getting more episodes. We've been sticking with the 10 episode format, but if we're waiting for over a year, I think we can squeeze in 3 more episodes and have a full 13 episode season. I don't think that's too much to ask for, particularly if this ends up being the final season, season 4. I'm thinking a show like this, a good wrap up point would be 5 seasons. I always feel that with most shows. I think season 4 should be just all out kind of chaos, and then season 5 be the wrap up. But if not, if they're trying to wrap everything up in 4 seasons, they have to move full steam ahead. And I think 13 episodes gives them a little bit of a cushion to make sure they answer all the questions that they need to. But I think they've answered a lot. They haven't revealed everything. We have the man in yellow now, the time travel thing, but knowing what a kui means that means remember. Knowing the source of the bottle tree, we know that now. With the children, their hopes and dreams going up into the tree. We also know what the numbers mean now. We also know that Tabitha and Jade has been, they've been here before. And we still don't know David Alpay. If you go back and listen to my interview with him, he mentioned that it's never been discussed what Jade's businesses, what his knowledge base is that made him such a lucrative businessman. I'm assuming that's going to be revealed in season 4, and that's possibly going to tie into how everything gets resolved, because we already know he has a very strong knowledge base scientifically. He knows how to negotiate. So I think all that's going to play a part into how the townspeople are saved in season 4, and maybe how he also interacts with the king in, I'm about to call him the king in yellow, the man in yellow. As far as me, he might be a king in yellow for all we know, but the man in yellow as of right now, I think Jade, if anyone, will have some answers about how to deal with him. So I'm on board. I'm looking forward to season 4. I know a lot of you have watched or read the spoilers about what happened in the finale. A lot of people weren't happy about that. I felt bad about people who had it spoiled for them. I did get this episode a couple of weeks early, as you can tell from the interview. And so I just kept my mouth shut, and I knew it would actually look better on the screen than it did on paper. Now, that doesn't mean all of you are going to be satisfied, but I was content with the finale. Didn't blow me away, the answers, but I'm just happy we're able to move forward with knowing what's going on. And now we can really look into moving the plot as far as the battle with the night creatures, and then also the human factions potentially battling each other. So I'm expecting a lot more action in season 4. A lot less slow episodes where you're having a lot of exposition. I think we don't have time for that anymore, particularly because we know everything that's going on. So I think it's full steam ahead for season 4, which I'm very happy about. 2026 wait. If you look on Twitter, a lot of people are under my comments just flipping out like that's too long of a wait, which I do understand. But MGM Plus is not a bigger network. We don't know what the budget is, so that might be just what they have available to pay for the show, even though it is the biggest watch show in the network's history. We aren't talking about HBO or Paramount, so the budget might not be as big. But I think we'll all be here in 2026. But let me know what you guys think. Were you happy with the answers? Were you disappointed? How are you feeling headed into season 4? I know a lot of people were not happy with Jim, so probably happy that he's not in the picture anymore, but maybe that's not true, because with Julie time traveling, I think we're going to see a lot more Jim. So he can end up being kind of a Father Catry type of figure, where he might not be in every episode now, but I still think he's going to be kind of a permanent member of the cast. If not, I think we see him for at least 4 or 5 episodes in season 4. But I'm gonna wrap it up there, because we already had a long interview with Harold that answered a lot of questions. I want to thank everyone for joining me on this journey with season 3. I've had some of the biggest numbers I've ever had with my YouTube reviews, so I appreciate that. I am still on the road to try and get 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you can think of any of the shows to kind of jump on before the year is out, let me know. If you're also interested in me doing more From content in the off season, is what I'll call it, let me know as well, because I would love to do that if you guys are interested in exploring a little bit more of the lore and what might happen in season 4. And also, I know I interviewed a lot of the cast, but I would have no problems trying to reach out and get some more cast members. Samantha Brown, who plays Akasa, I think she's going to be a big villain or antagonist in season 4. So I'm already trying to interview her because I feel that's going to be big. I want to try and get her early before we get close to season 4. But thank you guys again for joining me on this season 3 journey of From. Hoping to see you guys in season 4. Let me know what you think about the finale. I want to hear everybody's thoughts, and I will comment back on everybody's comments below this video, because I'm really interested in hearing what you guys think, because I know it's polarizing. I know some people probably hated it, some people probably loved it, and some people like me are kind of in the middle. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you guys soon to talk about more From or another show. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.